The emergency broadcast crackled across every terminal on the station, and I knew, instantly, that I had made a catastrophic mistake. My name is Vek'thuun, and I am what you humans might call a cultural liaison. For the past 6 cycles, I have been stationed on observation post Gamma 9, monitoring Earth's digital transmissions, cataloging your entertainment, your news, your seemingly endless arguments about something called pineapple on pizza. My job, in essence, was to understand humanity before first contact protocols could be finalized. Simple enough, right? Wrong. Spectacularly, horrifyingly, career-rendingly wrong. IT started 3 rotations ago when I stumbled upon what your database is labeled as children's literature. Fairy tales, you called them. Stories for juveniles. I thought, brilliant. What better way to understand a species than through the stories they tell their offspring? These tales would reveal your values, your moral frameworks, your fundamental nature.S. I downloaded everything. Grimm, Anderson, Perrow, Disney adaptations, the whole archive. And then, because I am thorough, because the Galactic Council specifically sent me here for my attention to detail, I actually read them. All of them. I should have stopped at Hansel and Gretel. That one raised several red flags, let me tell you. 2 children, abandoned in a forest, stumble upon a house made of food, which, okay, odd architectural choice, but fine. Then they encounter an elderly female who attempts to consume them. So naturally they respond by incinerating her alive in her own cooking apparatus. I sat there, mandibles slack, staring at my screen. This was for children? But wait, the file said, this teaches kids about stranger danger, about using cleverness to escape threats. I made a note. Humans teach survival skills through cannibalism narratives. Unusual, but noted. Then came Little Red Riding Hood. A juvenile traveling through dangerous territory encounters a predator that has already consumed her grandmother, whole and alive. The child also gets eaten, at least in the original version, until a huntsman performs impromptu surgery on the wolf's stomach cavity without anesthetic. Everyone survives except the wolf, whose abdominal cavity they fill with stones before sewing him up and letting him die in agony. Another note. Humans have complex feelings about digestive processes and creative approaches to capital punishment. Sleeping Beauty? A prince commits what any civilized species would call assault on an unconscious female and calls it romance. Cinderella? Systematic domestic abuse followed by a bizarre foot measurement-based mate selection process. The Little Mermaid? Self-mutilation for romantic pursuit, ending in either marriage or suicide depending on which version you read. I was beginning to suspect that Earth's definition of appropriate child content differed significantly from galactic standards. But the real problem, the one that had me frantically composing my resignation letter at 3 in the morning station time, came from the endings. Every single story, no matter how dark the content, how violent the journey, concluded with the same phrase, and they lived happily ever after. Seemed harmless enough. Optimistic, even. Humans like happy endings, I thought. How lovely. How wholesome. Then I cross-referenced your fairy tales with your historical records. Oh no. Those happy endings. They were not about peace and contentment. They were about elimination. Complete, total, absolute elimination of threats. The Wicked Witch did not get rehabilitation. The evil stepmother did not receive psychological counseling. The dragon threatening the kingdom did not get relocated to a nice reserve somewhere. They got deleted. Thoroughly. Permanently. With extreme prejudice. And the heroes? They got castles. Kingdoms. Royal marriages. Wealth beyond measure. All because they successfully removed obstacles using whatever means necessary, up to and including multiple homicides, property destruction, and in several cases, actual genocide of entire species. Wolves in Little Red Riding Hood's forest? All hunted down. Trolls under bridges? Destroyed. Giants in beanstalks? Murdered and robbed. Every goblin, every monster, every creature that ever threatened a human protagonist met the same fate. Extinction wrapped in a cheerful narrative bow. And you told these stories to children. As bedtime entertainment. I began reviewing humanity's actual history with fresh eyes, and the pattern, the absolutely terrifying pattern, became clear. Every civilization that ever opposed yours, every species that competed for resources, every tribe that stood in the way of human expansion. Gone. Assimilated. Eliminated. Scattered to the winds of time. the Neanderthals, the megafauna of every continent you touched, countless cultures whose names exist now only in archaeological records, happily, ever. After that my supervisor, Krillnex, found me hyperventilating into a waste receptacle, surrounded by printouts and data tablets. Vek, her voice was cautious. What is wrong? You look like you have seen your own death certificate. I gestured wildly at my research. They're children's stories. We all thought humans were suited for integration because they seemed so welcoming, so optimistic, so friendly. Yes. Krillnex's head tilted in confusion. They are friendly. The preliminary contact teams reported. The preliminary teams saw what humans wanted them to see. I pulled up a comparison chart, my manipulation appendages shaking. My manipulation appendages shaking so badly I nearly dropped the tablet. Look at this. Every single fairy tale follows the same structure. Protagonist encounters obstacle. Protagonist eliminates obstacle with maximum efficiency. Protagonist claims all resources. The end. Happiness achieved through annihilation. Krillnex leaned closer, her sensory stalks twitching as she scanned my data. Vek, you are overreacting. These are just stories. Fiction. Make-believe. Make-believe. I laughed, and it came out as a high-pitched whistle that made two junior analysts across the observation deck look up in alarm. Fiction is how a species rehearses reality. You think it is coincidence that they tell these tales to their young? It is training. Psychological conditioning. I pulled up another file. This one a collection of human military history. Notice anything familiar about their warfare tactics? Scorched earth policies. Salting conquered fields. Pursuit of enemies to complete defeat, not just surrender. And afterwards, peace. Prosperity. Happiness. They call it winning. Krillnex was quiet for a long moment, her skin shifting through several colors I had learned meant deep thought. Or indigestion. Hard to tell with her species. What exactly are you suggesting? I am suggesting, I said carefully, that we have fundamentally misunderstood what humans mean when they say they want to live happily ever after with us. Before she could respond, my terminal chimed. Incoming message from Earth, Priority Alpha. Someone in the human government had finally noticed our observation post. They were requesting dialogue. First contact. The moment the Galactic Council had been preparing for over 2 decades, and they were sending a delegation to discuss children's educational programs. Stars above. They know. I whispered. They know we have been studying them. And they are coming here. To talk about children. Krillnex tried to look reassuring, but her bioluminescent patches were flashing panic colors. Perhaps they simply want to share cultural information? Humans are very proud of their offspring. Maybe this is a friendly gesture. Or, I countered, pulling up another file with trembling appendages. They are about to turn us into a cautionary tale for their next generation. The aliens who lived in the sky until the brave humans climbed up and dealt with them. The end. Happily ever after. The delegation arrived 6 hours later. 3 humans in pristine diplomatic uniforms, smiling those tooth-bearing expressions that every species in the galaxy except them finds absolutely terrifying. The lead human, who introduced herself as Ambassador Patricia Monroe, carried a large bag that clinked suspiciously. Greetings. Her voice was warm, friendly, exactly the tone humans used right before the heroes in their stories did something irreversible. We are so excited to finally meet you. We have brought gifts. Gifts? Oh no. I had read about Greeks bearing gifts. That story ended with an entire city burning. Patricia reached into her bag and pulled out books. Actual physical books with colorful covers showing smiling children and cheerful animals. We heard through your transmissions that you have been studying our fairy tales. How wonderful. We thought we would bring some modern versions to share. These are updated translations, much less violent than the original Grimm collections. Less violent. She said less violent like it was an improvement, like the originals had been too spicy and they had adjusted the recipe. One of the other humans, a man named Dr. Marcus Webb, stepped forward with what looked like a data pad. We have been monitoring your observation patterns, and we noticed you spent significant time analyzing our traditional stories. We thought it might be helpful to provide context. You see, those tales were created in much darker times. Medieval Europe, pre-industrial societies, high mortality rates. The violence reflected their reality. But you still tell them to children. I managed to say, my translator probably butchering my tone. Present tense. Current day. You have hospitals and laws and social safety structures, yet you continue to expose juveniles to narratives of systematic elimination. Patricia's smile never wavered. Well, yes, but now we frame them as fantasies. Impossible scenarios. No one actually believes in witches or poisoned apples or wolves that talk. But you believe in the solutions, I said quietly. When threatened, eliminate the threat. When blocked, remove the obstacle. When challenged, win completely. That part you kept. The three humans exchanged glances. Something passed between them, some wordless communication that made my survival instincts scream. Then Patricia laughed. Actually laughed. A sound that seemed genuine and warm and somehow more frightening than any threat display. You think we are training our children to be conquerors? To eliminate everyone different? Are you not? Dr. Webb set down his data pad and folded his hands, his expression suddenly serious. May I tell you a different story? A true one. I nodded, because what else could I do? Once upon a time, Dr. Webb continued, his voice taking on that particular cadence humans use when they want you to really listen. There was a species that nearly destroyed itself. Multiple times, actually. Wars that killed millions. Weapons that could crack planets. Ideologies that turned neighbor against neighbor. We got very, very good at elimination, just like you fear. He paused, looking directly at me with those unsettling forward-facing predator eyes. And you know what saved us? Stories. I blinked, all three sets of eyelids cycling in confusion. Stories. Not the fairy tales, Patricia interjected, pulling out another book. This one had a different cover, showing humans and aliens standing together under unfamiliar stars. Those taught us how to survive threats, yes. But we also told stories about exploration, cooperation, meeting new friends among the stars. Science fiction, we call it. Tales where the happy ending was not about destroying the different, but understanding it. Marcus nodded enthusiastically. Every human child grows up hearing both kinds of stories. Yes, we teach them that sometimes you have to fight dragons. But we also teach them that sometimes the dragon just needs a friend, or is protecting its own territory, or is scared and lashing out. Your analysis was not wrong, Patricia admitted, and my heart analog skipped several beats. We are absolutely a species capable of extreme violence when threatened. Every apex predator is. But here is what you missed while cataloging our old tales. She pulled out a slim data chip and handed it to Krillnex. These are our current top-rated children's programs. Notice anything? My supervisor loaded the chip, and we watched clip after clip of human juveniles entertainment. Characters of different species working together. Conflicts resolved through communication. Former enemies becoming friends. Monsters revealed to have families and feelings and legitimate grievances. Modern human children, Marcus explained, grow up watching shows where the alien is not the threat to be eliminated but the friend to be made. Where talking is tried before fighting. Where happily ever after means everyone gets to live, not just the protagonist. I stared at the screen, my entire threat assessment crumbling. But the old stories, the violent ones, you still tell those too? Of course, Patricia said simply. Because the universe is not always kind. Sometimes there really are threats that cannot be reasoned with. Sometimes survival requires hard choices. We do not lie to our children about that reality. But we also, Marcus added, do not teach them that violence is the first option, or the preferred one, or something to celebrate. The old fairy tales are now teaching moments. We read them, then we discuss them. We ask our kids, was that the only solution? What else could the characters have tried? What would you do differently? Krillnex was scrolling through files, her color shifting to something like amazement mixed with relief. These educational standards, they require critical thinking about conflict resolution, multiple perspective-taking exercises. Since the late 20th century, Patricia confirmed, we realized that if we kept raising children on nothing but elimination narratives, we would eventually eliminate ourselves. So we evolved, added complexity, taught nuance. I felt something loosening in my chest, the panic that had gripped me for 3 rotations finally easing. So when you say you want to live happily ever after with us, you do not mean after removing us as obstacles. All 3 humans looked genuinely horrified. Stars, no? Marcus exclaimed. We mean we want to build something together. Trade, cultural exchange, maybe collaborative research? Your people have biological engineering techniques we would love to learn. We have some interesting approaches to quantum computing you might find useful. Mutual benefit, Patricia said firmly. That is what happily ever after means to modern humanity. Everyone thriving, not just the survivors. We learned that lesson the hard way, through centuries of our own stories coming true in the worst ways possible. She pulled out one last book, this one worn and clearly well-loved. My daughter's favorite bedtime story. It is about a human child who befriends a creature from another world. They cannot speak the same language at first, and both are scared of each other. But through patience and kindness and really good sandwiches, they figure it out. No one gets eliminated. No one conquers anyone. They just become friends and live happily ever after. I asked, unable to keep the hope from my voice. Patricia smiled, and for the first time, I did not find it threatening. And live happily ever after. Together. All of them. That is the ending we are trying to write now, not just in stories, but in reality. With you, with the Galactic Council, with whoever else is out there among the stars. I looked at Krillnax, who was making the gesture that meant she was equally overwhelmed, but in a good way. Then back at the humans, these confusing, complex, sometimes violent, often hopeful creatures who somehow manage to be both predator and friend. I think, I said slowly, I may need to revise my report to the council. Marcus laughed. Please do. But maybe include a note that we are still learning, still growing, still trying to be better than our old stories. We are not perfect, but we are trying. And that, Patricia added, gathering up her books and preparing to leave, is perhaps the most human thing of all. We keep trying for better endings, even when the beginning looks dark. As they departed, I sat down at my terminal and began composing a new analysis. One that acknowledged human complexity, their capacity for both destruction and creation, their ongoing evolution from fairy tale logic to something more sophisticated. The title wrote itself. Humans, a species in transition. Or, how they are learning to write new endings. And perhaps, I thought, watching their ship depart peacefully back toward that small blue planet, perhaps we could all live happily ever after. Not through elimination, but through understanding. Now that would be a story worth telling. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story. Rocket.